While at the SPR, you are responsible for your safety and the safety of those around you. All personnel at SPR sites, including contractors and subcontractors, have the authority and responsibility to stop work in a dangerous situation. Every person on the SPR has the authority and responsibility to stop work if you see an unsafe activity or feel uncertain of safely performing the work. There is never retribution for any employee who shuts down a job because they believe that it is creating an unsafe condition.
If you think something doesn't seem right, stop work. The appropriate supervision will step in and reevaluate the situation. Stop work is not only encouraged at the SPR, it's imperative for the safety of everyone involved.
All of us have stop work authority, and it's not just authority, it's our responsibility to protect ourselves and all the people we work with, FFPO and subcontractors.
Everyone who works on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is expected to perform in a safe and secure manner that does not put co-workers, the public, or the environment at risk. For any specific questions or issues, please see the ES&H manager, safety specialist, subcontract manager's technical representative, or SMTR, or fire protection specialist. The SPR stores millions of barrels of crude oil. Crude oil is the only hazardous product we have in sufficient quantity to require us to comply with OSHA's Process Safety Management Standard, or PSM. Working on the SPR, you need to know the hazards associated with crude oil. These include exposure to benzene, methane, and hydrogen sulfide, or H2S. Benzene is a carcinogen. Methane and H2S are dangerous, highly explosive flammable gases known to cause negative health effects. Protect yourself from these hazards by following site rules, cautions and warnings, and personal protective equipment requirements. Only chemical products approved for use by the SPR safety and health environmental staff might be brought on site. A safety data sheet, or SDS, is required for every chemical product and must be located in the area where the chemical will be used. Store chemicals in approved and appropriately labeled containers. All containers will remain closed unless in use to prevent evaporation or contamination. If you will be using chemicals, your supervisor, or if you're a subcontract employee, your SMTR, will show you where the SDS are. SDS are used to teach or remind employees about the hazards associated with specific substances. OSHA calls this hazard communication. Safe work permits are used by SPR employees and contract workers for safe clearance, electrical work, hot work, excavation, vessel or confined space entry, and vehicle and equipment entry into hazardous areas. A copy of the permit and job hazard analysis issued by Fluor Federal Petroleum Operations, or FFPO, must be displayed in the work area prior to work commencing. Sirens are used to notify employees of potential dangers. When sounded, all people on site should follow instructions as announced via intercom or given by supervisors. If an emergency necessitates site shutdown or evacuation, supervisors will instruct employees and contractors as what to do. Employees should ensure that all hot work, equipment, and vehicles are shut off. All personnel will go to the main gate or their designated assembly area where head count will be taken. No one will return to site until it has been cleared by the site director or his designee. Signs showing evacuation routes, shelter in place, and assembly areas are posted near exits in the site buildings. If you are a visitor to the site, remain with your escort who will provide instructions. Lockout-tagout is required prior to any service or maintenance activities where the unexpected energizing, startup, or release of stored energy could result in personal injury or damage to equipment. Only authorized personnel should perform lockout-tagout. Never try to defeat a lockout device. Deliberately defeating a hazard control may result in disciplinary action up to termination. Class 1 electrical areas include well pads, pump pads, the degas plant, and other areas where crude oil could reasonably be expected to be present. No ignition sources are allowed in these areas without a safe work permit. You are prohibited from bringing cell phones, pagers, flashlights, cameras, and other electronic devices which are non-sparking into a Class 1 area without a hot work permit. Electronic devices in these areas should be limited to those that are required to perform work and rated for use in Class 1 areas. All accidents, injuries, near misses, or environmental disturbances, no matter how minor, shall be reported. This includes personal injury, property damage, environmental damage, H2S alarms, and vehicle accidents. At storage sites, report all illnesses and injuries to the control room operator immediately in order for them to notify the emergency response team. Employees may dial 911 to alert the local EMS or ambulance services, but in most cases, notifying the control room will result in a faster response. Alert your supervisor or SMTR as soon as feasible. At the sites, emergency medical services are provided by the emergency response team. In New Orleans, initial first aid response is provided by the security officers. Employees should dial 911 if they believe an ambulance is needed, and then phone the security desk on the first floor. When calling 911, be sure to state which building, floor, and room you are in. Employees at Stennis Warehouse should dial 911 or 8191 from landline phones to alert Stennis Security. They will dispatch responders. From a cell phone, you should call 228-688-3636. If you dial 911 with a cell phone, they will have to put you through to a Stennis dispatch. Good housekeeping is required on SPR sites. All work areas and storage areas shall be maintained in a neat and orderly fashion. All space heaters must be approved and have proper surge protection. Containers will be marked with the name of their contents. Areas in hallways, corridors, and aisles must be kept free of accumulated material to provide unimpeded egress in case of an emergency. All exits must be accessible. Anyone on an SPR site, including subcontractor personnel and visitors, may identify and report a hazard. Employees may report hazards to their supervisors or anonymously by dialing the floor ethics hotline and pressing the pound key. Employees reporting ergonomic hazards should call extension 4061 at any time. Employees who deliberately or negligently violate safety and environmental procedures are subject to discipline up to and including termination. Violations will result in disciplinary action. All personnel are required to wear flame retardant clothing, often referred to as FRC, in areas where required. Horseplay, scuffling, practical jokes, fighting, and use of intoxicants or narcotics are not permitted. Hearing protection like earplugs, earmuffs, or both shall be worn when noise levels exceed 85 decibels. Follow posted signs. As a general rule, if anyone has to raise his or her voice to communicate, hearing protection should be worn. The site safety specialist or your escort can provide earplugs and show you how to use them if required. Respirators will be worn by all personnel working in conditions requiring their use. Some examples of such work include using herbicides, insecticides, paints, abrasive blasting materials, chemicals, gases or vapors, and dust or mist. Proper respiratory training, selection, and fit testing are mandatory. Employees assigned to jobs requiring manual lifting or material handling are required to use a second employee or lifting devices for loads equaling or exceeding 50 pounds and/or awkward loads. Fall protection shall be used by employees working at heights of 4 feet or higher. Eye protection is required when personnel may be exposed to airborne hazards from activities such as grinding, buffing, burning or welding, handling chemicals, or chipping. Follow posted signs. Hand protection is required when performing tasks where the skin can absorb harmful substances, where abrasions or lacerations could be likely, or where punctures, chemical and thermal burns, or harmful temperature extremes could be experienced. Wear appropriate gloves for the current task. Gloves are not to be worn when operating rotating equipment. Only authorized personnel are allowed to operate equipment, machinery, or vehicles. Follow manufacturer's recommendations and conduct and document a pre-operational inspection where needed. Do not attempt to operate equipment where you've not been trained to do so. Inspect tools before each use. Never use broken or defective tools. Your safety and security is a top priority on the SPR. To accomplish that goal, everyone must do their part and comply with the following. 1. Read and adhere to security protocols on the SPR and comply with all direction from the security police officers. 2. Wear your badge between your head and waist at all times. Question all who are unbadged, visitors who are unescorted and/or not where they're supposed to be, or notify a security police officer. 3. Watch for items that appear out of place and immediately report anything you consider suspicious to the nearest officer and your supervisor. All vehicle and equipment drivers must comply with the posted speed limits. All passengers riding in vehicles must be licensed for the type of vehicle being driven and ride inside the vehicle and wear seat belts. No one is allowed to ride on equipment such as cranes, forklifts, and tractors unless equipped with an approved passenger seat. Driving vehicles into diked areas requires a safe work permit. Vehicles should not be parked on the storage tank side of site roadways. The SPR is home to wildlife that can bite or sting. Snakes, including rattlesnakes, are common, especially in remote areas. Employees working in tall grass must use site-provided snake leggings. There are often alligators in site ponds and bayous. Do not approach or feed them. Report their presence to the site safety specialist. The sites are also home to red ants, wasps, bees, and spiders, all of which sting or bite and can cause serious reactions in people with allergies. Bites and stings should be reported to the control room operator. All reserved storage sites have designated wildlife set-aside areas that must not be disturbed. If necessary, your O&M point of contact will identify these areas for you. The site moves crude oil, brine, and water under high pressures. Exercise caution when working with pressurized pipelines or instruments. In most cases, they should be depressurized prior to work commencing. If you are the first to see a fire, alert others by shouting "Fire!" and then activate a pull box fire alarm located at all exits. If on an SPR site, notify the control room extension 232. In New Orleans, notify the Protective Force Guard Desk 850 building dial 4954, 900 building dial 4321, at the Stennis warehouse dial 8191, and at the New Orleans GSA warehouse dial 9, then 911. Report information concerning location, nature, size of fire, as well as injured personnel. Please provide your name and present location, and then evacuate the area and proceed to your assembly area. Report to the floor warden. Portable fire extinguishers are located throughout the sites and in all buildings. These are to be used only by trained personnel and only if can be done safely. The SPR participates in several safety and environmental best practice programs that enhance safety, environmental, and security excellence. All DOE, FFPO, contractor, and subcontractor personnel working on the SPR must support these programs. Our oil storage sites are STAR facilities in both the OSHA and DOE voluntary protection programs. VPP participation requires safety performance beyond compliance. DOE, FFPO, contractor, and subcontractor personnel are expected to meet the highest safety standards. FFPO uses the employee-owned behavioral safety and environmental process as one means of employee involvement. Peers coach peers on safe and environmentally sound behaviors. Employees identify the at-risk behaviors that are causing accidents at their site and target them for corrective action plans. No names are taken and observations are no fault. If you're using hazardous materials and there is a release, call the control room. No products or water will be discharged on the ground or down drains without environmental approval. Contractors and subcontractors must also follow environmental and safety requirements defined in the boilerplate of their contracts. If clarification is needed of these requirements, please contact your supervisor or SMTR. The SPR has implemented the DOE Integrated Safety Management Systems, ISMS. This management system ensures that safety, health, and environment are integrated into all of our business systems. ISMS compliance is evaluated annually, and any necessary improvements are made. For questions or concerns, contact your supervisor or SMTR, check with your environmental and safety departments, or look at the SharePoint website. Drop down the mission menu and click on Safety and Health. Thank you for your time and have a green, healthy, safe, and secure time at the SPR.